and welcome to This Week in Frax. I'm Sam, and I'm joined by my trusty co-hosts, DeFi Dave and Capital K. And this week is busy week. There's a lot of stuff happening this week, guys. Yeah. Honestly, if last week was just like chill and nice, this week week is the hype week.
It's the ebbs and flows.
Bump it.
I actually thought coming into Thursday, today's the 30th. So coming into Wednesday, I was like, it's a pretty quiet week. We're going to have another, not going to be talking about it too much. But then two major things happen.
Do you hold ETH but don't know what to do with it? Want to earn those juicy liquid staking derivative yields but don't know where to start? Well, FrxETH is there for you. FrxETH is Frax's native LSD solution, allowing you to earn boosted yields in multiple ways on your ETH. If you want to get started, go to app.frax.finance and turn your ETH into FrxETH today.
And we're going to get to those right now. So the first thing that happened, which kind of shocked everybody, this actually happened second in the later of events, but it's the first thing that we're going to talk about. And this was a 6-letter tweet plus an emoji that Sam K sent out that said Frax V3 and then a shh. And we were shocked. Absolutely shocked. Nobody had this on their radar. Frax V3 was launched, or it's in the process of being launched soon. Sam was pretty tight-lipped about it at first, but he let out a couple of details. So first, Frax V3 is an upgrade for the stablecoin. It's a part of the wider roadmap for the Frax protocol.
Which stablecoin?
For the Frax stablecoin.
Yeah.
Like the V3. So if Frax V1 was the initial algo stable that everyone remembers, and Frax V2 was the deployment of AMOs, Frax V3 is going to be more than just a stability mechanism update like versions 1 and 2 were.
It's going to be a significant change to the structure of the protocol itself.
Yeah. So Sam says that it's going to make Frax safer, especially in the events that happened over the last 18 months. And the biggest thing is that Sam says that we're moving away from USDC and other fiat coins to USD, which which is not FMA access. He said that specifically. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of underlying details which are going to be coming out here in the future. But at the moment, I don't know how that's going to happen. So
I would, if I had to speculate, because that's all I can do. Of course.
Yes.
I think it would have to do with something with governance and control over the protocol and the AMOs. All we have to do is go back to my Denver interview with Sam, and we have we talked a good amount about optimistic on-chain governance, and at the end of the day, the final word is with the token holders. And basically, how it works is yes, the Frax team can still make moves and decisions unilaterally, but the final arbiter of decisions, let's say if the protocol goes rogue or whatever, is with the token holders.
Yeah, I see that. I see that for the on-chain governance point. I mean, he alluded to that in his Telegram messages. But the main thing that I don't understand, and I'm sure we'll find out soon enough, is that he wants to move to US dollars and not fiat coins. No more USDC, no more fiat coins, and moving straight to US dollars. And specifically, he said that this is not about getting a master account. It's a pure crypto design for V3, right? So the FMA is totally different. It's going to come later. So I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the fully on-chain trustless governance that he mentioned, right? And also that you were talking about too, Dave. I don't know. It's a little bit. I don't know
either. I don't know anything.
Yeah,
it's super tongue in cheek, right? Because saying that we're gonna be going for the US dollar itself, but yet still be fully on chain is almost oxymoronic because it's impossible kind of situation. And
this is what makes it a good announcement. This is what makes it a good announcement, because it's what could it be? He's saying this and that and that, and just everybody's wondering what is it? What is it? What is it? But we're gonna find out very soon, guys. Very soon.
And this kind of is the arrow in the cap after deciding to put the collateral ratio back at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
If we can fully move away from fiat coins into USD, then it kind of is what else can we do at that point? There's nothing, right? And then we can compete with all the other different stable coins out there, right? And we'll be fully backed. We may have a bank account. I don't know. Maybe Frax is buying a bank. Maybe we acquire. Maybe there's some M&A activity happening.
It's like instead of the movie "We Bought a Zoo," it's a movie "We Bought a Bank."
We bought a bank.
Frax's regional bank coming soon to a community near you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what's Frax's ultimate goal? It's to be the risk-free asset for the on-chain world. And so whatever they're doing, whether it's a big step, small step, medium step, whatever, it is towards that. Like, maybe it's something we haven't even imagined yet. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see.
At the end of the day, USDC is suboptimal for any major DeFi protocol out there. It doesn't pay yield. And so protocols like DAI are forced to go off chain, literally forced to go off chain and get pittance from Coinbase.
Can I have some yield?
Can I have 1.5%?
Please.
Can I have 1.5%? And so, we're tied to USDC as well too. And so like, it just makes sense that at some point that we go find our own solution, because like with interest rates at 5%, right? Or 4% or whatever they are for on the short end, with $1 billion, we're talking about like $40 million a year of interest income that could be coming back to the Frax protocol. So, Sam's alluded a little bit about how that would look, which means that maybe he's already done the investigation, and maybe they're already setting this up as this, what would you call it, a nonprofit entity. Maybe that's the thing, right? Because he's alluded to how it would look, right? And he I don't think he would say that publicly without having done his homework.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. And last, somebody asked in the chat if Frax V3 was bullish, yes or no. To which Sam gave the answer, which I bet you can guess.
Unequivocally, explicitly.
Unequivocally. So moving on from hype to actual voting, the WETH replacement program was announced, and the initial details were posted on the Curve governance forum. So it asked for new gauges for the following pairs. So FrxETH paired against sdETH in a stable swap, against RETH, sETH, ALETH, and Coinbase ETH. So that is 5 pairs that would be paired against FrxETH and would have gauges. So once those gauges are added, these pools will be treated similar to how the Fraxbase pool works, right? Mm-hmm. So they will get Frax share bribes through Vodium proportional to their TVL, very similar to how Fraxbase pool works. And I think, honestly, this could be really where we find incumbency as an LSD, right? Because we don't have to be the most decentralized. We don't have to have the
LSD of settlement.
Exactly, right. We don't have to have the deepest VC connections. All we have to do to win is just be paired against every other LSD in Curve, in size, in the biggest pools, where like if you're going to trade out of sdETH into anything, you have to go through the FrxETH pool.
Yeah.
Sam,
and also,
are you saying FrxETH is the LLSD, the liquid staking derivative?
The liquidity LSD, yeah.
Yes.
The liquid staking derivative of settlement.
Just for clarity, is it the FrxETH ETH pool LP token being paired against each of these? It's just FrxETH.
No,
straight
just
FrxETH.
So
FrxETH.
I think like the key for Frax in this initiative is to just simply provide more value than WETH. That's it. If they can provide more value than WETH, then naturally more and more LSDs will go and pair with FrxETH.
Yeah. And I see it now. I mean, like I had questions about like how is Frax how is the WETH replacement program going to be applied to, say, Uniswap V3 pools or like other places where you would see WETH being used. But I think it's small steps right now based on this initial announcement. I mean, these are 6 pools, and it really seems that Frax has a very targeted approach in how they're trying to deploy this, saying that, look, we don't have to fully roll it out in one go. Like we can make a couple of targeted incentives against the biggest LSDs in the world, and that's how we win.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. Go big, go home.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to see how this rolls out. I think that it's going to have, look, at the end of the day, the more TVL that those pools suck in from those extra incentives, and it just increases the FrxETH TVL, right? Because if people have to buy FrxETH to pair against those pools, and they got to buy it from somewhere, and that just means more minting and more minting.
It still boggles my mind that FrxETH, or the Frax core team, when creating FrxETH, is the only team working on an LSD that thinks of an LSD as an ETH pegged stablecoin, and this is clearly shown in like this whole FrxETH initiative.
Yeah, because what people don't want is like a wrapped basket of LSDs. I've seen this a lot recently. This like LSD fi where like we're gonna there's some sdETH in there and some Coinbase and some whatever, right? People don't want that. People are just going to choose the LSD that they feel is the safest and also or has the highest yield or something. Like
I think this is a problem with just indexes in general in such a nascent industry at this point. It's like there's no point of an index if like we're still at the start. Like look at remember the DeFi Pulse Index? The straight to zero index.
Right.
like, oh, we're gonna make a basket of DeFi coins. Come to zero with us. I mean, it's a good idea in theory, and I'm sure in a few years it will be. I'm sure like there'll be some type of DeFi index. They'll figure it out. But the only like index I see out there, actually, I saw this one index the other day, is like a alongside market, which like most people would like disagree with, but it's just like a general basket of cryptocurrencies, whether it's like on ETH or on this and that. It's like all different kinds of cryptocurrencies in there. It's just like, oh, you want to like exposure crypto, just like buy this thing.
Yeah. My problem with crypto indexes and why I typically find them useless is that the correlations to Bitcoin and ETH are like 90-something%.
Yeah, there's like no point. Even then, it's just like like a novelty product. I agree with you. Like people are just much better off, if they want exposure than just acquiring some Bitcoin and ETH. Not financial advice.
and then like going after single projects, right? That you think may outperform. That's really the only way, because like indexing in crypto is a fool's folly, just because
it's just too volatile.
Yeah,
it's just too volatile, and it's not like indexing is good for
like the broad economy,
oil,
like when you have like oil
gold,
and finance and healthcare and like everything together.
Weed.
Yeah, weed. Yeah, when you have all that together, it makes sense.
Microchips.
But like if an index for like a single hyper correlated sector is a little tough. Yeah. So very excited to see how this WETH replacement goes. It should come pretty fast, actually, now that it's on Curve governance forums. This means that we should see those pools already up, actually, since the gauges are being requested. And then that vote should take like a week, I think. And then it should just fly through Convex, and you'll have some FracShares gauge. I'm guessing we're going to have some FracShares gauges as well, too. The first of the FrxETH gauges. So very excited to see that. Next on the list is a request.
A request
that Coinbase made for builders to come to their L2 called Base and incubate non-fiat pegged stablecoins. So they want to have stablecoins that are not pegged to fiat, but fill other spaces like what FPI does. And so they're excited. They want to hear back from builders, and I'm sure Frax is on their list.
It was literally on their list.
It was literally on their list.
It was literally cited on their list. Yeah, once again, Frax skating to where the puck is going, not to the puck where it already is. And FPI has been out for a year now. VE FPIS has just been released. And I'm curious about how like FPI and FPIS just evolves as an ecosystem. If maybe the builders want to come over to FPIS since it's already out to build on it. Like I always speculate like what will be included in the FPI index. Like right now it's the U.S. government, their CPI, but maybe we can create our own independent CPI over time. It's just tricky because like there's a reason why there's a cap on FPI. And Kit, you know this because you cover it
Yep.
every week. It's how can we comfortably raise the cap and like how do we get like mass adoption to something like FPI?
So this was actually talked about in chat, right? Where people asked about like the cap, and Sam said that the cap is not meant to be tightly controlled by the team. It's meant to be tightly controlled by the distribution of VE FPI stakers. So in theory, we could probably put up an FPIS governance proposal to like double the cap or something. That could probably happen now that we have VE FPIS. So the cap really comes down to governance. We should probably, I don't know, maybe we should go make a $10 million increase or something because it's time.
It's time.
I think it's better to do it incrementally rather than just a 2x, because yes, we do have like 5 million in buffer in terms of equity, so we could theoretically absorb a lot and have a lot of room for safety. But my concern with FPI has always been there is a upper limit threshold. We have yet to know what that upper limit threshold is because you need to generate the yield for it. So far, it's definitely above 88 million because we have excess, right? So,
yeah.
But there's some upper limit, and I'd rather us go slow and be able to wind down if we need to, rather than wind up so hard and have a hard time coming back down in terms of supply cap. So I think bumping it to like 100 million would be a nice start, a nice 9-digit round number. It's currently at 88, I believe, or 85 or something like that. So I think just bumping up to 100, see where it goes, see if we could still build on our reserve. I think that's the number one proxy is if our reserves keep on climbing up, then all right, we can keep it could almost be programmatic too. It can turn into its own kind of.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's my take on FPI. But regardless, bullish.
You think
FPI
bullish. Could be backed by FrxETH?
I mean, it holds FXS.
Wait, did you guys hear me?
Yeah.
That FPI could be backed.
It holds FXS. Oh yeah, which holds I guess like indirectly. Good point.
Yeah. It holds
but like directly hold FrxETH.
Possible. I mean, I brought up FXS
potentially.
because
there's just more risk in that, right?
Yeah. I mean, they hold FXS. So then, like, how much more risk is if you were just to cut half the FXS bag for FrxETH? But yeah.
Okay, exactly. That's good.
Yeah. No, but I think like there should probably be some. I mean, they mentioned the FCR, right? So the flex collateral ratio. So maybe there's a percentage of the FCR. So as long as there's a certain amount of buffer, we could probably increase the cap by 5 million right now, and it'd be cool. See how it goes.
Sure. Is it worth though? Is it worth it?
I think so. Like I've been looking at the Frax today, and we've been positive in revenue for every single month since, except for one, up until recently. So this month is going to probably be negative, but it's only going to be negative by about $5,000 or $6,000. At some point, like, look, I think FPI, for it to become widespread, probably needs to get to $1 billion, and we could probably get there within a year. And then you just have to ask the question: are the yields in the broader crypto space going to facilitate enough yield being pulled back? And maybe there is. I think we can get really creative in how that, right? Because right now everything's just in the convex FPI Frax pool.
Yeah, correct. 95% of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most all the cash. Yeah.
I think that's a fair bet, Sam, because in 1 year's time, we'd have, 1 year's worth of Shanghai being live and withdrawals kind of happening, and things should be smoothed out. So we could truly get what that native yield is on ETH. And if that yield is obviously higher than the CPI consistently, which it should be, right? CPI it should be much, much lower than what it currently is. Then theoretically, there is no upper bound. But I think that's a good call to wait for a year before we go like uber ham and just crank it up.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is, do you remember there's a discussion in chat a while back about how Frax should not let so right now in Fraxlend you have just stake FrxETH, but there should also be loan demand for FrxETH, and somehow Frax should push the loans higher on the stake FrxETH people because they're already receiving incentives, and they should lower the interest rates or keep the interest rates like bottom barrel for FrxETH stuff. So maybe that's the case where like we could raise those rates and then use the FPI money to put it into the stake FrxETH, since we know that it would be a guaranteed minimum. We could set the floor at like 4% or something, and that would be enough to cover the interest rates.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. But I mean, you know what's also interesting? Fraxlend recently offered WETH as a pair, which I thought was...
I mean, they've had WETH as a pair.
Yeah, they've had WETH for a while.
Oh,
I mean, it makes sense.
Had?
But
okay.
That was like one of the first pairs. Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked heavily about Fraxlend before in some of the previous episodes, and I think there's a lot of optimization. Speaking of Fraxlend, this is actually, I did not have this written down, maybe in the bottom, but I just saw this in Frax chat that there is an AMO that has been proposed for Arbitrum, and it's going to be
finally
the first deployment of Fraxlend on a new chain and for a new pair, and that's going to be for Arbfrax. It's going to use the V2 pools, and there is a vote coming up to authorize $5 million worth of Frax to be seeded into this pool.
That's all.
Nice.
Because I don't think you could leverage Arb on chain right now. Could you? Is it on RB? Is it on Aave yet? Or
I don't think it's on anything.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere. Yeah.
Let's get the market. Let's go.
That's going to be great. I'm really excited about that. I got a nice bag in the airdrop, and taking some Frax loans would be great. So I hope it actually should go really well. I mean, hopefully we get the same pairs on Arbitrum Fraxlend that we have on regular one, because I think a lot of people would take loans, like smaller loans against like ETH and BTC and other core assets, and they don't, just because you have to pay $100 on ETH or $150 or $200 on ETH just to take that money out.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I'm actually excited. Westwood is just like freaking out now because it's the only thing he's been asking for in the trading group for like months now.
Not just him, a lot of people have been asking me for it. When Fraxlend Arbitrum? Mm-hmm. And so
this means that in addition to the question I have now, though, now that the Fraxlend on Arbitrum is confirmed, is do we have to have separate AMO votes for individual assets, or are they cross-chain ready, right? So if we authorize $30 million worth of Frax for stake FrxETH, is that just for Ethereum, or is it up to the team to decide where to deploy that to?
I mean, ideally, you would use Frax Ferry and just move the Fraxes between the chains and go to wherever the best yield is, right? Like that.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying for the team. So, like, are we going to have new authorization votes for like stake FrxETH AMO on Arbitrum, or are the AMO votes a global decision? Where
it has to be global.
Let's say we authorize. You think it has to be global?
Well, I don't think it necessarily has to be global. I think now it will be specified out AMO, because I think there's different risk profiles on different chains. So I think there'd be different AMOs, like different liquidity, differences in liquidity for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. But maybe it's just
Okay, the chain risk is fair, but I feel like for things that are built on L2s and with enough audits, which I feel Arbitrum has kind of crossed that threshold, just to reduce governance friction, I think it should be the same, because it's still the Fraxlend product itself, which the Frax team built, and it's the exact same pair with the underlying like asset. I mean, I guess you could say that there's bridge risk because, well, the assets, the Frax, the ETH or WP or whatever it is needed to come onto Arbitrum through a bridge.
Yeah.
So I
I
guess,
think yeah. I guess like this is something to ask the team for clarity. Like, do new, Fraxlends on different chains require new AMOs for the same assets?
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's say if like $30 million is deployed in Frax to, SFrxETH, for example, when they like make a new proposal to increase the AMO, I guess do they say it like it's generally? Is it like just for X amount for ETH, X amount for Arbitrum? This will figure itself out. This will figure itself out.
yeah. I think it should be yield driven.
Yeah.
It should be yield driven. Like if there's better yield on RB relative to the extra risk, then feel free to move it to RB.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's an interesting point because it requires a different level of management. But I guess on like the side of caution, you would have a different proposal for like each AMO. But on the side of opportunity, you're just like, oh, AMO for like one pair is for all chains.
That's my take.
Yeah. I don't know. This is probably like a meta governance thing that we probably need to decide at some point.
All right, Sam, what's next?
Speaking of governance,
What's
speaking
next?
of governance, there's actually a lot this week. Governance was busy. A lot of it was taken up with Frax Ferry deployments. So Polygon ZK EVM just launched. So there's Frax Ferry stuff happening for that. FPI is getting a bunch of new chains for Frax Ferry as well too. And then also ZK Sync launched their EVM, they launched their ZK Sync EVM as well too. Yeah. And so there's Frax Ferry deployments happening for that as well too. Outside of that, there are a couple of big items to talk about, and we'll save the biggest one for last. But there is a Bunny LP Frax USDC and FrxETH gauges on Frax, that has been put up. Seeing how the last Bunny proposal was received, I don't know how this one will go. I mean, it is specifically for Frax USDC liquidity, but it is contentious to say the least.
Contentious. Yep.
There was a great proposal about Frax ecosystem educational incentives.
Oh, really?
That was posted.
Oh, yeah. That was by yours truly.
And we talked about that last week, but it actually got a lot of comments.
Surprisingly. I think the biggest update to that is we added an addition to incentivize the creation of Dune dashboards. And so, talked with Nader, talked with a few other people. They want to see more dashboards. And so got it, put that up. Somebody recently commented saying like, hey, like this is great, like for the dashboards, but dashboards require maintenance. Like how will that be addressed? And I'm just like, we'll create another grant just for the dashboards for maintenance of dashboards, which could be awarded through Llama Pay over time. And that's something we can create in the future. But this should go live tomorrow. It should be posted on Snapshot. And then hopefully by this time next week, it will pass and we'll get this started just in time for April. Yeah. And so
that sounds great. I'm really excited
love
for
to
this
see it.
So the next one is a rage quit, and this one
another rage quit. Oh my goodness!
So this is This is not a rage quit. This is a unlock the StakeDAO sdETH Frax put gauge, and what is happening is that StakeDAO announced that they are deprecating one of their options product, which is the sdETH product. So they're changing the strategy. They're not going to be deploying this anymore, and so they're winding it down. And so there's no risk to the actual money that's in the product, but there is a desire within the community to be able to unlock that, since it's no longer going to be supported. It's not going to earn yield anymore. It's very similar to the metastable one, except I feel that this one might get more community support because StakeDAO has been a core part of the Frax ecosystem. And
early supporters.
closer partner as well too. And the metastable one worked a little bit differently, and they actually got acquired through an M&A process, which
They got acquired
Yeah,
by
that's
who?
so cool. D-Hedge.
by DeHedge. Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, like I think it's the first official crypto M&A transaction.
No, it's the second. Don't
Second.
forget Faye and Rory, of course.
Right. Okay.
Oh, but actually, before that, there's also Keep Network and Newverse, I think. So this is the third one.
Mm-hmm. So I think based on some of the comments that were in the forum as well too, and based on this one might just be unlocked, right? They may not even have to pay a rage quit. Maybe there's a small rage quit that will come along, but for right now, it's just a full unlock, and we'll see how this one continues on. Next up in the governance forum is going to be what do I have here? Let's see. We did the Fraxlend AMO. Right. Okay. So the last thing that we're going to talk about today, and this actually is the longest proposal that has ever been posted on the Frax
Longer
forum.
than my grant? How many words is it?
It's 6 posts. It's 6 separate posts because of all the appendixes.
Yeah, I was reading and skimming parts of it.
Yeah. So this is the so it's called Activate AMO that lends Frax to Flux Finance. And essentially this is proposed by the Ondo team who have also deployed Flux Finance. Ondo is a system where they're a blockchain services company with technology arm, and they've developed this new product to create tokenized funds. And they've raised a bit of money, and now they have this product called OUSG. And OUSG is essentially a wrapper for treasury assets or for treasuries. And this is only purchasable by qualified individuals or qualified investors who have more than, I think it's either $5 or $10 million of net worth. You have to buy it in $100,000 chunks. But the reason that you would do it is that you can, once you own it, you can deposit it into Flux and borrow against it, hopefully at a better rate than you would find on back in TradFi. So they've posted this extensive proposal for adding Frax to Flux Finance. And Flux Finance is a compound V2 fork, which allows assets to come in as collateral and then to be able to borrow a variety of assets against it. In this case, it's going to be different stable coins that can be borrowed against it. The interesting thing about Flux Finance is that it requires KYC to be able to own OUSG, but it does not require KYC to be able to deposit stablecoins into that pool. Now, while I really applaud the Ondo team and Flux Finance team for adding this, I still have a lot of questions, right? I actually asked one question at the bottom, which was, can Ondo or Flux or its investors be compelled by the courts not to return funds to the lending pool? And this is really what's going to determine whether this AMO can pass or not. Because let's go through a scenario, right? So let's say you have an investor who deposits some OUSG into the Flux Finance pool. AMOs are actually a little bit dangerous in the sense for Frax because you're minting unbacked Frax, so you're taking collateral assets from the treasury, and then you're deploying them into whatever protocol this is.
Mm-hmm.
And this opens us up to risk where if there was a seizure or some sort of court order against Flux, they would be required to execute that order in whatever means fit that the court said they had to do. So, even though this is like semi-trustless, especially on that side, like let's say we deposit $1 million in there, right? And then the borrower takes out his, I don't know, 800K or something against his OUSG. The landscape for crypto products is a little bit difficult right now. and there has been some aggression by the DOJ to come after different companies.
Mm-hmm.
And one way that this could actually open us up to, this sort of aggressive prosecution is they would see this huge pot of money of Frax. Let's just assume it could get to hundreds of millions of dollars deposited in there. And they could essentially come and say, like, this is breaking these laws. You're not allowed to interact with these pools anymore. We're freezing this. And then that collateral now becomes null and void. And all of the Frax that we've deposited into those pools now is not able to be recovered at that point. And I think that's the risk when dealing with this sort of thing. And with any sort of RWA, it's like, we're going to have to deal with these questions though, because Ondo is the first, but I'm sure they're not going to be the last. And we're going to see a bunch of different methods in which RWAs are going to ask for lending. And we're going to have to deal with that at some point.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see this passing because of exactly what you said, and also, the chain of custody risk, and, with the risk of like freezing, the risk, the whole environment right now, going back to what we said earlier, like Frax V3, I really wonder what that V3 is, because, the Frax team has stated like what they are looking for in a real world asset. And Sam has said like the only real world asset we really care about is a Frax master. I mean, a Fed master account, maybe one day Frax master account, but it's hard for me to see like the Frax team like doing something like this and taking on that kind of risk.
But
yeah,
guys,
I would much. Yeah, go ahead, Kit, and then I'll come in.
I just want to also raise a point about the Frax team may not have to take on all that balance sheet risk or take that risk onto their balance sheet. But what do you guys think about offering that kind of to the broad community? Of saying like, if you want to come in an LP here, then
that's what I was
call.
thinking. I was thinking we could make a single-sided. Okay, so the way that it works is just like Compound. So when you deposit into Compound, you get C tokens back. So you deposit, in this case, you deposit Frax, and you're going to get F Frax back. So Flux Frax backs. That's what you get. That's your like interest bearing.
Yeah,
your interest bearing Frax coin.
I mean,
what we could do with that F Frax, instead of creating this AMO, is create a gauge system specifically for that single sided. So it'd be the first like non-LP gauge where you could deposit your F Frax into this gauge and then earn Frax shares on top. You're essentially like creating liquidity, putting it into the lending pool. And so you're creating Frax and you're creating Frax demand. And then you could get paid on top of that with Frax shares through a gauge system. That might be a better option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the protocol itself doesn't have to, because the thing that I think people miss with the AMOs is that this is unbacked Frax that is being created out of nothing and added to these protocols. And unless Frax has guarantees that it can always recover those funds, it's dangerous for them to deploy those assets because we don't want to get any bad debt. We had this issue back with the Harmony hacks and a bunch of other stuff.
The only AMO that I've seen Frax deploy is to their own products. I don't see them deploying an AMO to an outside product anytime soon.
I think there's some Aave stuff, right?
I mean, Aave is an exception because they're Lindy. They've been around for a while. They're battle tested, but then that AMO was from a while ago. But like, I don't see any new AMOs on the horizon. That's what I mean.
But that was part of the whole like lending AMO. I'm sorry, it is part of the lending AMO though. It wasn't just like, hey, specifically for Aave, we're gonna hook up like an AMO for you.
So I'm looking at the AMO page on the homepage right now on the dashboard, and something like 65 million is deployed right now into Fraxlend, leaving another 20 million that is just in various AMOs. The primary one being the Tribe Convex pool that has 5 million, the Float pool which has 3 million, Olympus has I think these are all like the Faye and the Rari. I think this is like these are just the leftovers of the Faye and the Rari hack, right?
Some leftovers.
some leftovers, right?
Some Thanksgiving leftovers.
So there's like StakeDAO and like it seems like
StakeDAO, you say?
And then OXB1's kitchen sink. A lot of these seem like, and then we have $2 million in Aave, right? So I don't know. This seems kind of risky, and I would rather see it as like a single-sided gauge.
I concur.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to write that after this.
Monday post.
Yeah.
Or like comment. We'll figure out Monday post.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna comment in the thread and just be like, hey, this seems a little bit risky. You know, maybe it's better to deploy, like to ask for like a gauge, because I think everybody would be down for a single, like the first single-sided gauge in gauge history, right? That would make sense, and it does. You know, it's creating Frax, so I don't see any argument why we wouldn't like vote against it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the subject?
One V3.
Win V3, exactly.
1v3. That's all.
We have some great interviews coming up next week. We have a special treat from a guest contributor on Monday coming up.
Oh, really?
Week. Yeah, I'm excited about that one.
I'm excited. Yeah.
And Dave has more merch that has been designed.
Yes, that
Actually,
is
Dave,
right.
can you talk about your merch before we wrap up?
Yeah. So the merch, you know, Frax is coming to Japan. We are hosting an Eats Tokyo happy hour, and of course, we gotta make the merch. You know, so me and Carissa, who recently joined Flywheel, we got together and we designed a special Frax long sleeves with, you know, the Frax logo. In the Frax logo on the sleeves and stuff. Honestly, we went through so many different iterations. We spent so much time trying to design proper merch and trying to get it right. We spent hours like going back and forth and like trying to find, like, originally it was going to be like something else. Then it was like hard to find like the supplier, this and that. Long story short, easiest to do long sleeves. That's easiest with like a clean black shirt, your standard like logos, and then Frax in Japanese right here. I don't know. Merch is fresh. Go get only 50 in stock in Japan. So if you're going to be
Frax
in Japan,
World Tour.
Yeah.
Frax is like the supreme. Frax merch is like the supreme of merch.
Yeah, Frax merch is coming. We will set up a Frax merch store. Flywheel Frax merch store is coming within the next few months. There's a few special things at Flywheel I'd like to roll out first, but merch is coming. And so...
Is that what it says? It says Frax Finance on the chest there.
Yeah.
It does? It says Frax Finance there, Dave?
Wait, sorry. My headphones are cucking on me. Can you repeat that?
So like in Japanese, it says Frax Finance?
It says Frax Finance in Japanese, yeah.
And this is the first Frax merch with the FrxETH on it. I'm kind of jealous.
That's true. So rare collector's item, only 50 in existence. So, wow. You know, and it actually says Frax Finance in English on the back.
Oh, so, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's gonna be really nice. Thank you, Griff Shop, for supplying us once again with the finest merch on earth. Shout out Griff Shop, of course. I'm actually wearing the Frax sweatpants right now. They're super comfortable.
They're super comfy.
Yeah,
it's super comfy. I've got a pair. My wife's got a pair, and I have to say that they are quite possibly the most comfy sweatpants I've ever worn.
I told Griff, like, we need to have the comfiest sweatpants. And so...
Mission accomplished. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week in Frax. Dave, Kit, where can we find you guys?
You can find me at DeFi Dave22 on Twitter.
You can find me at 0xcapital_K. Where can people find you,
Traders
Sam?
Insight, and I'm at Traders_Insight. And Dave, where can they find all of us? Where can they find Flywheel?
They can find us on Telegram, Flywheel DeFi, Twitter, Flywheel DeFi, Substack, FlywheelOutpost.com. Go check it out. I just wrote a very special piece about me and Arizona iced tea. That's one you don't want to miss. So go ahead, check it out right now. Make sure you catch up with everything on YouTube, and don't miss a beat by hitting that bell and subscribing to Flywheel DeFi on YouTube. And guys, thank you so much for joining us. And like always, we'll be back next week. Peace. Everything said on this episode is not financial or tax advice. This channel is strictly for educational purposes and is not an investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any assets or to make any financial decisions. This video is not tax advice whatsoever. Please talk to your accountant and do your own research.